That's a format. There it is. All right, let me see if I can get this to work. There. Look, we're live. Can you hear me, everyone? Jordan, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We
Huge.
have some
That's
football. We
huge.
have some football to talk about, and yeah, listen, it's. I think we're going to be saying probably a lot of the same things, which is, um, it's a collective failure, and it's on everybody. But yeah, Jordan, give me your initial takeaway, and then we'll just dive into the details and talk through a really, I guess, it's probably a pretty on brand type of Browns football game, right?
Yeah, I it feels a lot, Jake, like the past three games where they have an opening script and they're moving the ball and you're feeling optimistic about the offense and outside of that opening script, it's just a struggle for them to consistently move the ball. I thought Deshaun made maybe some of his best throws today out of any of the previous games or his previous tenure. It looked like he felt much more comfortable making plays out of the pocket today.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really encouraging. I thought he made some really good throws, but like you just have these constant mistakes everywhere, like you alluded to, whether it's, we can talk about the hold on Nick Harris and whether it was warranted, but it's just a pattern of these things that happen on really big plays that have been happening all year. Like you go back to the Giants game and you get a penalty on an interception. It's just like, listen, their line's decimated. It's hard. Like Nick Harris should not be your starting center for a whole game. Like but at the same time, it's like, man, the lack of consistency on a drive-to-drive basis on both sides of the ball. Like defense too. You're watching the worst running team in the NFL by a large margin, like laughably bad. The Raiders through 3 weeks getting chunk gains against this Browns defense. So yeah, I don't know, Jake. It just feel like I'm rambling a little bit because the end of the game was so jarring. That game was so jarring and weird in
Mm-hmm.
general. But like a lot of the same themes of sloppiness, inconsistency, where you just are unsure on both sides of the ball, like what they're going to look like from drive to drive, and it felt like that again today.
Yeah, that's all pretty well said. There's quite a bit of frustration that comes with. I think we've been talking about this pretty clearly from the beginning of the season. This idea that you can't blame one person, you can't blame one unit, you can't blame an individual thing, an individual person, individual coach. It's a collective, and that's kind of the title of what I'm working on to hopefully finish by some point tonight. The write up with the game notes that I like to try to do about what I've seen is like this is a continued collective failure, and where you want to put the blame for that collective failure is it's motivation driven, what you want to believe, I think, because I'm pretty sure if you're writing a thesis paper on the topic, you could come up with and support said argument pretty well for like what is actually costing this team football games. And I think we've made it pretty clear over the past few, I don't know, weeks perhaps, but I at least think before the season started. And, it sounds like our guy Andrew, who's normally with us, who's down in Asheville getting absolutely some of the worst rainfall flooding possible. He is good. We actually got a chance to talk on the phone tonight during the game. He actually sounds like some cell phone services come back into play and just enough in time for him to follow along or listen to the radio edition of that miserable final. But I do think this team needs a defense to support them in a very serious way. And this is like an above and beyond defense approach needed. But I think you would agree with me, Jordan, that expectation was pretty fair coming off what they did last year, the amount of talent they had returning, the amount of investment that has been placed in that group. And we'll dig in on the offense. They certainly are way more of the pie chart responsible here, but it still feels like if the offense is failing, you set that to the side, which I understand that offense affects defense on both sides. But like, if you look at some of those teams who have been historically good defensively and they've gone to the playoffs despite a bad offense, which you would agree with me was a little bit of play last year with this team, they were lights out and made a bunch of games. Now, quarterback weather driven, there's some stuff there that I think we're kind of resurfacing, reanalyzing as we go through this new process this year. But this defense needed to be lights out in almost every conceivable way against things that weren't teams making heroic plays. And they haven't been. I don't know what the missed tackle number is going to be. I have to believe it's going to be 15. Like I have to believe it's going to be 15 plus missed tackles in this game. And as a defense, I understand your frustration with the offense not living up to their end of the bargain, but I am of the belief that Jim Schwartz and his position coaches they had to know this was going to be the case at the beginning. And I actually thought the Browns offense had some things in working better today, which we'll talk about. But the issue for me is this side of the football that we're holding to the highest standard is clearly not getting it done. And that's, to me, it's a big disappointment. Not as big as the offense and what we've seen there, because what's failing the offense is jarring too. But like this defense stuff is like they're not good enough, Jordan, because they against Dallas, I thought the second half they people thought they played well. They didn't. Dallas just missed throws. Same thing with the Giants game. Like Daniel Jones was just off on a couple of plays that were open. And it's like, I just don't. I mean, they're better against the Jags, fine in that one, but like this isn't the version I think we thought we were going to get this year.
No, not at all. And even, I mean, that first series defensively where, they score the touchdown and then they get a 3-and-out, but the only reason they get a 3-and-out is because Brock Bowers drops a wide open pass and then Gardner Minshew misses a wide open receiver on third down. Like, guys were running open all over the field. I think, to me, Jake, and again, like, it feels like, if I had the data in front of me, it feels like every blitz they've run does not get home and the quarterback is throwing right behind it for an easy gain. Like, it just feels like they're not surprising anyone. Their over aggressiveness remains the same and is getting used against them. I mean, we don't the stuff on the ends, like whether it's a jet sweep, whether it's a run outside of the tackles, like they pursue one way and not the other. Like I think you're 100% right that as this offense that has not been a consistent unit in terms of, like, obviously injuries to Deshaun, you bring in a new coordinator, you're installing an entire new offense. Like, regardless, it's been much worse than I think any of us expected, but like regardless, it's going to take time. And when you have a defensive unit that you think is going to like hold down the fort, especially against who they've played so far, the Giants, the Jaguars, teams that are not especially good offensively, it's pretty jarring to watch not only them get beat a lot, but like the effort when they go down, and when things are not going their way, just feels, body language isn't good. Like before JOK knocked that ball out and they scooped it up for a touchdown, the body language on defense and how they looked was awful. It looked like they didn't want to be on the field.
Yeah.
It's an effort thing. It 100% is.
And I'm not above the idea that your disdain with how your offense performance is happening consistently week over week is not something that is driving your eye roll. We're on the field again. Can we get any help? This is frustrating. But that's not how it works. Like, you have to continue to hold up your end of the bargain, and you're exactly right. Like, this felt like a 27-10 final until Zamir White handed the football to them.
Yep.
And that is that's rough. And it kind of speaks to it as well, Jordan, where like it definitely feels like this team is waiting for something to go their way. Like can we get one break? We've had unbelievable amounts of hands on the football in the first 3 weeks, now 4 weeks. We've had a lot of opportunity on offense that has just slipped through the grasp. Like, we can't catch a break. And when that fumble occurred, the scoop and score occurred, there was a new life in the product. Instant change. And I thought it trickled into the next possession when they got off the field fast. And then, boom, the long touchdown happens. And that play gets called back. And that is like, you could again feel the collective sinking out of the group, which is obviously a problem because football is filled with so many of these swings that it's like immensely challenging, obviously, to keep up. But this is where leadership from the top to the the food chain, which I believe is at the head coaching level, all the way down to your players who you have selected to be the captains of your team. Like, those guys have to be playmakers. They have to get their guys around them to raise up. And I just don't know that is collectively happening. I will give, as we'll bring Peter into the fold as well. I will obviously give, Deshaun Watson a lot of credit because I thought he made a significant amount. This is the best. It's almost felt like a vintage back when he was in Houston type of Deshaun Watson football game where he's sort of moving, eluding, hanging in the pocket with better protection. And there were times they didn't block well, but there were actually times the first time this year where I felt like Watson, who went 24 of 32, 176, a touchdown, and obviously that interception that was quite clearly not on him. I think it's worth, like, to me, knowing that play, specifically the scramble play to Cooper, was like, that's some of the stuff he's pulled these sort of miracle throws out and in the biggest moments. And like, he was a lot of those 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8s, he's making good headway, picking up first downs, scrambling. Like, I don't think that Deshaun Watson has at any point in this season been without question in terms of what his decision making has been, his accuracy has been. But today they failed him. He played well. He played well enough to drag them to a win, and I thought that was really an unfortunate ending. But it again speaks to the collective. When the quarterback hasn't played well, other guys around him have been playing well, right? And then, like, when the offensive line hasn't played well, their wide receivers aren't catching the football. When the quarterback and O-line put it together, like the Amari interception is just I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. I mean, like, there's these moments where it looks like Amari doesn't even have a desire to be out on the football field. Like, there's just, like, between his quote about the media needing the cameras turned around on them this week, and then some of the lack of effort things that I've seen from him, and then obviously these catch issues that have not been this prevalent through 4 weeks of any season for him, you're really concerned about the attitude, culture, and all of that around the locker room. So I'm just, I mean, they're 1-3, so we're obviously concerned. You're borderline panic mode about making this season what you hoped it would be, but I'm grown egregiously frustrated with this play it's this person, this play it's that person, this play it's the next person. And when you get this type of performance out of the quarterback that you've been begging for across the first 4 weeks and a lot of Deshaun Watson's tenure with Browns, like, this was it. This was the type of game he wins for you. He did enough to win, and they didn't even, like, this felt like the 2020 Texans that went 4-12. You know what I'm saying? Where they were a joke around him, supporting him, and just couldn't finish games defensively, offensively. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell in terms of, like, looking at the big picture stuff. Peter, obviously welcoming you in, and Jordan kind of gave his vibe of the game. I gave a little bit of context to some things. I want to talk about some others, but yeah, this is it's a really interesting spot right now for where everything's kind of falling into place as you drop to 1-3 now after 4 weeks.
What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
How are we doing?
Been better.
Can't match that energy, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, here's the thing. I'll give you my vibe of the game, but I'm going to tell you a little story about it. Is my audio okay? I know had a little mic issue, but good enough?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, I'm going to pontificate for a second. I am horrible at gambling. I mean, like, really, really bad at gambling. I'm just not good at it. I only bet $5 or $10 because I know I'm always going to lose. And before this game, I said to myself, what's the story I've seen of the Browns in these 3 games? Who have they told me that they are? When someone tells you what they are, believe them. So I put a little parlay down on the Raiders plus 3.5, the Browns scoring between 11 and 20 points, Deshaun Watson having an interception, Deshaun Watson coming under 220 yards, and the alternative total of under 41. This is the first bet I've won, I think, in this football season. I think I was 0-10 until I hit this parlay. And the reason why I'm not even happy about hitting it is, other than I won $80, is it is the exact story of every same game that they've played. It is literally verbatim, can't get to 20 points, and while Watson was a lot better, the team is absolutely flailing. And this is who they are. I think they're a 5-win team. There is, I don't know what Jaden Daniels is going to do to their defense next week, but it is going to be, it's going to be inspiring. It's going to be inspiring either for him to be Rookie of the Year, for Jim Schwartz to be maybe on a hot seat. If you can't beat this team that was so bad, the Raiders are so bad, and losing to both the Raiders and the Giants back-to-back weeks, I I understand Njoku is coming back and Chubb and Miles Garrett doesn't have feet and Nick Harris, that was a really hard holding call, which was really tough and all those things. But you also make your own luck. You make your own luck. And the Browns are bad and thus don't really deserve any luck. You knew absolutely that Dustin Hopkins was going to miss that kick. You could feel it in your Browns toes and in your Browns soul. So I am upset, but I also can't be upset that they have told us now for 4 weeks exactly who they are. And I don't know how it gets better. Maybe it does, but the odds of making, they showed it on the telecast. Odds of making the playoffs are probably 15% at this point. And at this point, you now are facing what's probably the hardest schedule going forward, even though the Bengals are probably helping you with that. So I don't know. I just want to figure out what we should do as friends, as watchers, and as a website to reframe what the next 14 weeks is going to look like and how to just reset our own expectations and what we think about everybody that we thought we knew. But I'm good.
Yeah. I'm trying to frame up this final play because I really want to talk through some of it, and obviously I'll try to put this together in a cohesive way. I'm not sure if I can do this in the way I'd like to do it, but if we can present something, maybe I can share a screen over here and then we can talk through it, because I think the final play is where a lot of people can get a little confused about what exactly went on with what like Watson is looking at. So if I can, maybe I can pull this up, maybe I can't, but I think that this is what I want to spend some time talking about. Go ahead, Jordan, if you had something you wanted to say.
I was just going to say I'd initially tweeted a screenshot, which people hate, so I should probably stop doing that, but I like to do it. I like to rile people up. No, I mean, it does seem like, I think, Jake, you can probably identify the name of the coverage that the Raiders ran here, because it was a pretty cool disguise, it looks like, and I can kind of let you go through it. I think obviously like his read is to that left side of the field. It looks like he really wants to throw that ball to Akins, and it's a route that gets undercut. But let me go ahead.
Yep. So let me see if this stuff will come up on the screen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. Can you guys see anything? Probably not. Anyway, not a big deal. So left side of the screen, they're running a combo kind of called smash concept, which is a corner route with a down route. It can either be a hitch, it can be a zig return, it can be whatever you want to be on the left side. If it's a bunch alignment, you can run like a little speed out with a corner. It's meant to put stress on a high-low on the left side. If you got a down corner, let's throw over top and see if we can beat that safety to the corner, right? If it's some sort of cover 2 or cover 6 where there's a down corner and an over top player, obviously we can make a choice, try to kind of rip it into the corner as well, or take the underneath if it's just flat out like quarters or cover 3 and the curl flat defender hasn't run underneath the hitch or the zig route to the left side. I think where people are getting a little confused, because I'm kind of looking to my right because the screen's on my right, is that the end breaker from Judy, who's on the hash in this current still photo, I don't want to run it because then we'll get copyright flagged and all this stuff if we run the video. We'll just come to the website tonight and I'll have a breakdown of this. But like Judy's running a dig. The problem is the read concept calls for a left side read first. So Watson has to process a couple things. Obviously, the Raiders are bringing a 5-man, which you can see. What I mean is a 5-man blitz. You can see 5 guys engaged. The problem is the twist exchange, which is Christian Wilkins beating Zach Zenter to the inside, creates an interior pressure. So by the time Watson comes off, realizes he can't throw the corner route, because if he throws it, there's currently, you can see on the left side, 2 Raiders defenders, one underneath on Amari Cooper, number 2 there on the 10-yard line, and then there's another kind of squatting. It's bracketed. Like the corner route is bracketed and the underneath is covered up. So there is no left side throw. Watson is at the top of his drop processing this. Could he just lob this up to Akins? Sure, right? He could. And after he gets sacked, you want him to do that, but that's not the best decision. Now, you could say, okay, hey man, they had an interior pressure, but they didn't have a natural interior pressure. The middleman 41 there, who I believe is Spillane, dropped underneath. So like, even if Watson were to look back middle at the split second, he comes off of this left side throw, the primary, to get back to this. Even if it were this frozen moment, you wouldn't totally know if that safety is baiting you and then recovering to drive on the dig route. If he had like a second and a half longer, he could have processed perfectly the bracket on Akins, come back right side, and then maybe found the middle of the field with the dig coming open. But I can't play it for you, but I'm telling you, it is instantaneous how quickly these guys are in the backfield. They don't pass off that twist. You see Harris is unable to form that cutoff that needs to happen there with Zinter. Wilkins is through. The looping linebacker, I can't even point. Maybe you can see my mouse. The looping linebacker is going to take care of this right here. It's in his face. It's instantaneously in his face. So, like, there is no answer. It's good coverage. It's a good scheme, but the blocking wasn't good enough up front to give him a chance to come up. It was only a 5-man. If it's only a 5-man, guys, how many people do they have blocking in the photo in front of you? You guys can do simple math. There are 6 SOBs wearing white.
1, 2,
3. Keep going until you get to 6. There are 6 of them.
Oh, there's 6. No, there's 6.
If you can't pick that up to let a quarterback come off the primary and find the secondary, I hate to tell you, this is not on the quarterback. It's not. He needs to be protected here and have a chance to even get to the dig to throw it. You know, like, so there are things Watson screws up there, and there's plenty of evidence the first 3 weeks. He was really good in this game from the first watch. I could walk back and correct myself over the coming days, but there's no argument.
Yourself.
Yeah,
no, do not correct yourself.
Well, I mean, I watched the film to analyze every element of it, but yeah, he played well here. And I just think he's getting like a bunch of unnecessary anger at the end. And I'm not saying you're wrong, Jordan. I think everybody sees that and they want to like pause it and say, hey, he missed it. It's not like that's.
It's why I deleted. It's why I deleted the screenshot, because it wasn't fair. And I was just going to say too, what I thought was interesting about this. You can't play the video, but you know they bring Amari across the formation, and the cornerback follows him. What I thought was interesting about the Raiders' coverage was that cornerback that went with Amari passes Amari off to the other corner and then undercuts. Then immediately at the snap, sort of runs back and undercuts Aikens' route. So I thought it was a pretty like. You know, I don't know if there's a specific word for that coverage, Jake, but like for him to sort of bail on the man that I think like, you know, you bring a guy across the formation, you think that's the corners and man, they're playing straight up, and then he gives him to the other corner and bails and undercuts that route. Like it was a really, like to your point, to process that in the amount of time that Deshaun had, there probably is no chance he's flipping back over to, like now if he could have got that safety if he had enough time where he saw that safety commit to Aikens, like you said, because they're bracketing over there, then absolutely, but he didn't have that time. Yep.
Literally, this is still shots are so hard because the split second you see Aikens come out of the break and you want this football thrown, you can see that has no chance. Like again, this is not David Njoku. This is Jordan. Nothing against Aikens. Nice football player, tries really hard, but he's not making that catch. He's just not. Now, in a world, could you say he's got to throw the corner? Yeah, maybe, guys, but it's a 5-man. He has 6 people blocking. Like you can pick this up. So you can't just go, oh, I got to bail instantly. Like I can't. He's supposed to read it out. If I can't come off the left side, I'm going to come back to the middle and look for the dig. Why the hell do we think we call it the backside dig? Because you come off the primary and you find the dig. So if you can't effing block it up for him, it's not on him. He's got to trust that his people are going to do their job around him before the guy gets into us. Like you can't ask him to live in 2 worlds where you're like, oh, he's got to play this way, hyper speed, his line sucks, he's got to be getting rid of the football all the time fast. Okay, well then that's when he throws 4-yard checkdowns to Jerome Ford because you want him to just check on 3rd and 12. That's shitty football. That's awful. So my point is he's doing his job, processing out what's happening in front of him. He actually comes off of a really funky coverage, that bracket, in an impressive time. And the amount of time it takes Wilkins and the twist to loop around is so disappointing that your 6-man protection scheme can't block it up. And that is speaking to the collective problem. You do get it blocked up. You get a great route from Amari Cooper. You get Watson stepping up into the pocket, driving a football downfield, and it hits Amari in the chest and bounces. I can't figure out how to take the damn thing off the screen, but you get what I'm saying. Like
Jake's fired up.
I need a guy in the background. We just throw blame at players. And listen, I don't have a bias on any of these guys. If Watson plays bad, guess what I tell you? He played bad. If he played well today, he played well. I'm going to tell you that. That's the point of this website. So, like, I just think that, like, people want to come in and blame everyone, like a specific person, without ever understanding how football's full picture works. So I'm frustrated with the final play. The defense collects money at the end of the game. They get money too. So sometimes they call the perfect defense at the perfect time with a stunt that happens to beat what you're doing up front. But don't come in and try to blame the quarterback when it's not the quarterback's issue here. Like that's the thing I like for the point of this. Go ahead.
For the past 2 weeks, there has been people online and a discourse around that I think we have, as a maybe collectively, been accused of, which is like, we're going to, no matter what, blame Watson. And the truth was, he played poor. He played poor for some of that time. And anyone who is saying that this was Watson's fault is on the other side of just not being tethered to reality of what we watched. This was the best game, I think, at least from my eyes, my untrained eyes, that I've seen him play in a Browns uniform.
Yes,
he was
100%.
It was not even close. He was hitting all the reads. He was making strong throws. He was hitting those check downs or those short passes that he's usually sailing. Everything seemed great. And every other part of this team collectively just has a lot of really sad holes in it that I don't think are fixable by Nick Chubb.
Right. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. I don't listen. I'm gonna turn the audio off this. We're not profiting off of this. I don't care. Let me show you guys this in real time.
I'll speak with Roger. I've been in a Zoom meeting with him once. Yeah. I'll speak with him.
Get with him.
Here well, then, if you've been, it's Raj. All right, Jordan, come on.
Can we? How many? Okay, here I think we're in the right ballpark now. Actually,
someone
I'm going to
share
this
at the NFL should take pity on us. All right.
Yeah, I think
they should
the
give
thing
us money for this. To be honest with you,
the thing that they're probably going to be upset with is how bad I am at navigating this. All of a sudden, maybe I can get this to go full screen again. I don't know. There we go. All right, is it moving? Why is there a grab section going on right now and I can't move? It's because I'm in a still shot. Bear with me. I promise to God, guys, we are going to get this thing working at some point, but I really want to walk through. The point of these shows is to walk through what happened, and I want to do that with you. But the point, the question from Josh on the screen, which is the eyes of that safety, I think are the most important thing to take a look at. But you can't really tell unless you watch the actual play pan out. So I'm going to try to get this to the spot that the play actually pans out and just say, all right, YouTube, you're not paying our bills here. So let me present again in a better way.
Even when I saw the play in real time, without seeing anything happening downfield, not for a second did I think that was Watson's fault.
Okay, so yeah, right. I imagine most people don't, but I think it is important to just like understand this is a 5-man pressure, right? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the front, right? We've identified we have 6 people to block this thing up, right? And we're going to bring a back in and block it up too. So off the snap, the simple process is I'm reading out as Amari goes in motion. He's going to be running, I think, some sort of hitch, but it could be a hitch return. He's kind of opening space, a corner route over top, and then you're going to get a backside dig that works into this window right here. And then the front side read is over here, obviously 1 to 2, reading it preferably high to low to try to get into the end zone here. But we also don't mind just hitting a first down throw right here, right? That's fine. It's 4th and short.
Sure don't.
So that's where our eyes are going as a quarterback. So off the snap, it's closed coverage, right? I understand. I see single high safety. I'm guessing either man with a low hole sitter, this Spillane right here. So he's playing the deep middle. He's playing shallow middle, or it's cover 3, a little more traditional. But the way that the guy moves with Amari tells me that I think it's going to be, right? I think it's going to be a version of man. That's what I'm at least getting the hunch on, right? So Spillane does a good job sitting in the low hole. The safety, right, his eyes are that way, but you got to be as a quarterback sort of at this moment right here. You could make this decision. You could try to put this football out here. It is possible, but this drop is bracketing, and then this is bracketing right here. So he's reading left side because you're asking yourself again, like, why is he going left side first and why is he hanging? He wants to throw to Amari. He wants to just pick up the first down, keep the clock going, score in. That's the goal. And if not, I can try to throw the corner over top, but then I process this bracket coming together. So I can't even okay, if I try to throw it sort of in the back portion of this, keep him skinnier instead of to the true corner, the safety is going to cut it. It's just a dead play there. By the time, watch how quick this happens. By the time he processes this out, this is a slow motion view. Look at Zenter lose his man. Harris doesn't get over to cut off Wilkins. I can't throw it right at this moment because I feel like he's bracketed up. I don't feel comfortable giving this ball a chance. You can't even come back to the dig. So by the time this is realized, it's bracketed right there. It's tough. And look how sharp the route is from Akins, where if Watson tries to put it back here, he's running it so hard to this direction that it's dead. Like it's just not, it's not possible unless you can get it blocked up and you have a chance to, even if Watson were to slide right, there's an unblocked linebacker right here that this one doesn't notice. And then you have no chance to even get to this. That's it.
Yeah. So he said on the final fourth down sack, Deshaun's quote post game was, "They got to me before anything could happen," is what he said.
Exactly.
He's correct.
It's kind of right.
The worst part about this stunt is you don't even need the guy coming around because the one dude beats both Harris and Zinter by himself.
Right.
And then Jerome Ford's just like, wow, I can't believe I don't have anybody to block on this play. Who would have thought?
Right. And it's like he couldn't even have thrown this with proper look where he has to step to try to even throw it because of the interior pressure between Zenter and Harris. So
I mean, I think all of that's correct. I think there is frustration for watching on a fourth down play that you have to have or else the game ends. There's frustration in watching the quarterback take a sack. Regardless of all of this, I think that's a lot of where the frustration comes from. I think you're right. Wouldn't have really mattered. He could have thrown that up in the air and it probably would have been picked off. And again, Akins is not highballing that probably like David Njoku could, no matter where you put it. It sucks that it didn't get blocked up, which should have been an easy pressure to take. It sucks that Deshaun didn't have the time to come back and see an open route. It sucks that the Amari Cooper, I mean, all of this is so infuriating too, because this play, a lot of times this is what happens too. It should not have come down to this. This game does not need to come down to a 4th and 3.
Correct.
Where you have to get 3 yards or the game's over. Like, it should have never got to this. The holding call on Harris for a touchdown was, like you said, Jake, like so deflating because they had all the momentum. That was an enormous play. That would have been the highlight of Watson's time in Cleveland, would have been that play. And it's just sort of the script that these games have been following, where they're there. All aside from the Cowboys game, they're there. They're in these close games or in these one-score games where you feel like, how are they not winning this game against this team? And they put themselves in positions because of so many different areas. Again, like for Amari to get we did a whole video, Dake. You did a whole video on the pre-snap. Guys not getting set for a full second after going in motion. You know that the coaches have been over this. They had 19 of them. And was that the game against Jacksonville or was that the game against Dallas? I can't even remember. But it's just like
Jacksonville.
Yeah. Then the thing, like, now listen, with Nick Harris snapping that ball with Deshaun not ready, but Deshaun is waving his arm because I think he's trying to get Donta Foreman to move to the other side of him. Donta Foreman's not paying any attention. Like, they're so sloppy in processes right now. Like that play to me, like that was such a game changer on that drive because you go from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 26 or whatever it was because they're not ready offensively. Guys are not in the right places. You're still having these pre-snap penalties and illegal motions and all of this stuff. So like it just compounds itself. And then it gets to a point where it's like people are so frustrated because you're just like, you see somebody open and you could have won the game. And so people get, it's emotional and people are upset but it should just never have to come down to a 4th and 3 against the Las Vegas Raiders to win a game.
It's the details, man. The details are tough. And it's, full recognition that we're looking at the final play of this drive and you have, James Hudson at left tackle. You have Nick Harris at center, who they traded for right before the season started to bring back into the fold because of an injury to Whippler. Your right guard is a rookie, Zach Zenter, who didn't play. He's kind of really getting back to the ball again after the serious injury that he had. And then DeJuan Jones is the right tackle. So it's like there's obviously a lot to be negative about, which I totally understand. And teams they overcame them last year. But I think what we talked about last year was the idea that what we were watching was really special because these are normally not things that teams overcome. And those things do catch up with you eventually. And like
And I
not having their consistent left tackle, not having a consistent center, listen, the product's not good enough, but I do think there's some perspective on all of this that we need to try to keep, as we also
well,
say, hey, we're missing on the details, Jordan. I'll throw it to you. I'm just like, they are missing
no,
on the details.
they are, and I think this is the first time. This is also a difference from last year. I think this is one of the first games you saw that frustration bubble over. Like you saw Deshaun upset with DeJuan Jones. You saw Jameis Winston going over the sideline who was also fired up. Like this is the first time that you're starting to see a little bit of like what is maybe going on behind the scenes during the week after they're watching film. I mean, I think you could understand from Deshaun's perspective how he probably feels like there's somebody in the backfield almost every play. I just think it was nice to see like Deshaun over there having a calmer conversation with DeWand after that initial thing took place. But I think this is really the first time that you saw on the field publicly and then on the sideline from multiple players, just that sort of frustration that I think is starting to set in. And what worries me, and I think, obviously like, yes, you don't want to be super negative and fully negative, but what worries me is that when you start to see stuff like that in the middle of a game and you see it bubble up like that, that's not just that's not out of nowhere. Like these things build. Unfortunately, it's only week 4, hasn't had a lot of time to build, but it's built. And I think this was the first time you saw that. And that's worrisome about like just the mind state of guys in the locker room when you have games like this. You start the season like this where you thought you probably outside of that Cowboys game had a pretty good chance of starting fast. And that hasn't happened. So I think to me that was really an eye opener, just because like you didn't really see that last year at all. Even as they went through everything they went through last year, they were really able to whatever. If there was stuff going on, they kept it in house. It didn't really spill over to the field at all. Today was really the first time I was like, oof, like there's some stuff coming out that maybe has been bubbling. So we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah, 1 in 3 locker rooms don't have happy people in them, right? Like that's just how it goes, right? So I don't know. It's a tough situation, and I think that if you think, and I'm not, and Larry's comment here is a totally fair perspective to like feel right now. I get it. They're not going to be a 1-16 football team. They are going to win some games. Like it would not surprise me. I think they have the Commanders coming up if they play them, and much better than people think. Like the NFL does this where nobody believes in us mottos come into play, and like every week these types of things turn. I kind of harken back to where they said at the beginning of the season that their early season offense was going to be solving a lot of their situations. What do they want to do? Who are they? Kevin outwardly publicly said that. It's clear they're working in a better direction to me. It's certainly a bad product still, but it is in a better direction than I felt it was weeks ago. So the unfortunate part that you guys, I'm sure, would agree with me is you lost these last 2 games that you needed to just win ugly. Like you needed to win the Giants game ugly. Obviously winning this game ugly is like how you're 3-1 and you're like, oh, it's not a very good 3-1 team, but they're winning ugly. Because again, what did they do last year? They won ugly often. And that's like the difference is like razor thin on these outcomes. And that's like part of where
But also what you just
at.
described is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, for the most part, right.
And that's the difference between us and them. Is they take care of the things that they don't ever get in the way, for the most part, of losing games. Of like someone in our founders chat said it great. Like we are always our best foe. Like no one beats the Browns like the Browns. And that is the thing that is really exhausting of, even the Steelers today, like they got beat and they're 3-1, and the Browns have no reason why they shouldn't have played the same way they did throughout all of this and be 3-1. And I think this is how you go from, this is how you get to not 1-16, but it's how you get a top 10 draft pick next year.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm curious about is, and I'm just curious about like, what are those expectations setting? What are those big picture things? Because I think we've been waiting for the Watson verdict to come. And now because of the cruelest twist of Brown's fate, he plays his best game and the outcome for this team is, how come this defense plays off everybody and gives them 8 yards for the first half of every game until they figure out they should press? How come they can't, maintain the edges ever? How do they handle these injuries? How do they handle an aging off the roster, especially line and receiver room, like with Cooper? So I'm just trying to understand too, like, I don't think it's doom and gloom, but I do think we all are here, and also people who subscribe to us is like, they want to understand where the path forward is or what it looks like. And it's hard to, I just think there's still going to be at some point, no matter how Watson plays, a resetting and a realigning of expectations here, especially when we're on the road for the next 2 weeks with two pretty tough opponents who are both much tougher than the last two that we've played.
Yeah. I mean, they're 1-3, so the record tells you who they are. I'm just getting at, they're more talented than this collectively. So what I'm saying is, and it's ironic, like I understand where Jeremy's coming from. Like, it's funny. Last week and the week before, I'm too negative. I'm the negative guy. And then I'm just saying the NFL is very unpredictable at times, and this team is more talented than what they're playing. And then when they play and put together a full game, it's going to happen at some point. It's inevitable. The NFL also is a real platform for consistency. The consistent teams are the ones who make the playoffs every year. You cannot be wildly inconsistent and make the playoffs. You can be talented and wildly inconsistent. That's what the Browns are right now. They're clearly talented, wildly inconsistent. There's also consistently kind of like average teams that ultimately make the playoffs. So what I'm getting at is, like, there are going to be weeks that they do put it together, and it's like, this is the team we thought we were getting. I can see the tweets and stories writing themselves. Browns look like the version we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. It's going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind. There's absolutely also no question they might be the NFL's most inconsistent football team right now, and that has played out in why they are 1-3 at this point. So that I understand. There's so much to dig into still. We've barely gotten off the ground with the plane right now. Like, not, metaphorically speaking, to the comment I just shared. Like, there's just a lot to dig into with this. There's a lot to cover about why it went the way it went, the opportunities missed, the decisions made. We will get into all of that this week, and continue to cover this football team. The team will show up every Sunday and play. I know you're frustrated with them. I'm frustrated with them. We will continue to make unique coverage of these guys throughout the week that I genuinely hope you guys can enjoy, and not let the outcomes of these games stand in the way of, like, getting more out of your experience with the team. We are trying to provide that for you. I hope you feel that way. And I understand, certainly, if you're the 275, 300 people that are hanging out with us tonight, you care enough about these guys to show up and listen to three guys talk and about them. But, like, they're going to keep playing, and I think they're talented enough to still win some games. Do I think they end up making double-digit wins happen here? I think that's out the window, probably. But, like, they're going to continue to go, and we're going to continue to cover them. And hopefully you guys continue to come and talk about them with us, because I think that is what makes it best. So we're getting out of here by the time of the start of Sunday Night Football. Like I said, stuff going to go up on the website tonight. Probably a goofy amount of things the next few days that will hopefully bring to light for you guys what transpired in this football game, both sides, because it was a deeply flawed performance on both sides. So we will cover it all. Thanks for being here, stopping by, hanging out with us. Go enjoy the rest of your Sunday night and try to forget about football for a minute. Hopefully you do that. I appreciate you all. For Jordan, Peter, myself, and the guys at Browns Film Breakdown, appreciate you. And be well. Go Browns.